All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Just a couple minutes of some housekeeping and some announcements while the rest of the attendees join. Just like last week, we're going to get into this panel as quickly as we possibly can. We've got an awesome panel to get today again. This time it's comprised of leaders of some of the larger legal support firms in the country. Firms that rely on many of you to fulfill their work as affiliates or contractors, and vice versa, as many of you rely on them for a steady flow of work. Today they'll be discussing their businesses and the current state of the industry, what they're doing differently now, and how they're preparing for when things get closer to normal. We'll get to those introductions in the panel shortly. Again today, joining me, Steve Glenn, owner of Magnum Diego and a couple other legal support firms here in Denver, Colorado, as well as founder and president of the Colorado Association. Additionally, I have Adam Camrus, our CEO over at ServeNow and ServeManager, and Kyle Barr, our marketing director. We'll mostly be in the background today. Myself, Kyle, and Steve will. However, Adam will be serving as the moderator, and we're only going to be doing the Q&A today, so we will not be utilizing the raise your hand feature. So if you have questions, please ask those along the way, but we will probably not get to those until the end. Steve is going to talk a little bit about some of the updates in the stimulus and relief packages. Then we'll jump over to our panel. Like I said, Adam will be moderating. If you were here last week, we tried something new and it worked out pretty well. We did an AMA, or an Ask Me Anything, over on our Slack channel for an extended Q&A session. And our panelists will jump over there for about 30 minutes after the panel today. So if you're not part of the Slack community, please go over to sopslack.com right now, fill out the membership form, and we'll approve you during the webinar. So make sure you check your inbox for the approval email with the link to get into the Slack channel. And again, you'll want to join the AMA room over in Slack. We did ask a couple questions last week via the poll feature in Zoom. And one of the questions that we asked was when our attendees saw things returning to normal. And you can see those results here. 52% believe we'll be back to normal in 2 to 3 months, and 22% feel we'll get there in less than a month. If you want to see those, the full poll results, you can go over to our Facebook group, our ServeNow Facebook group. In addition, the second question was, have you or a loved one or a friend contracted COVID-19? And about 29% responded yes. So that's just a little insight there as to how this pandemic has impacted our process serving family. We'll have a couple more poll questions today that will launch later in the webinar. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Steve for a couple quick updates, just a few minutes on what's going on with the relief and stimulus scenarios.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for attending. I just want to talk real quick about the EIDL and the payroll protection plan. First of all, the EIDL, that's a program that just keeps changing over and over. Initially, I thought that they both were combined, the EIDL and the payroll protection plan. But what I'm finding out is that the EIDL basically is a loan. It's up to 30 years at 2.75%, and any money that they advance to you could be forgiven, but that would only be up to $10,000. Initially, we thought that everybody would get the $10,000, but now what they've done, because so many people have applied, is they're just giving you $1,000 per employee that you have, if you even have any status on your loan. In regards to the payroll protection plan, everybody knows that they ran out of money. I saw last night that the Senate was looking at voting on approval of new funding for the payroll protection plan today, and then the House would follow up with that tomorrow. If it doesn't happen today, whenever the Senate votes for it and approves it, then the very next day the House will take up the vote. Couple important things about payroll protection. When you get funded, make sure that you do not commingle the funds that they give you with your regular operating expenses. It's going to be very important that you track the money that you move and what you use it for, so that you end up getting as much forgiveness as you possibly can. I attended a webinar last Friday from Thomson's Reuters, and they said in there that the actual payroll protection plan could be used for business debt that you had, but I haven't found that anywhere else. So just letting you know, make sure 75% goes to payroll. That's a given. Make sure 25% would go for business expenses like rent, utilities in the office, and possibly debt for that. I think that's all I have for that. Oh, last thing. Don't stop procrastinating. If you didn't apply till towards the end when they ran out of money, when they fund this again, apply immediately. Their suggestion that people should apply for more than one bank and find out which one moves the fastest. If you do that, just make sure that once you get approved, that you close out the other ones so that you don't eat up the resources. And with that, I'll turn it back over to, I guess, Adam.
Great, thanks, Steve. I appreciate it, and thanks for the update on that information. Welcome, everybody. We know that some of you couldn't get in, and especially if you're just joining right now, there was a brief intro, which you will get shortly. I want to turn this over to our illustrious panelists that are here and have joined us. But before we do that, I just want to thank all of you for attending and joining. We know that these are challenging and uncertain times, and you are here, you are taking the steps and the initiatives to be a thriver in this and come out of this on top, and you are learning and you are networking and you are staying on top of it and you're staying educated and informed, and we appreciate it and we respect you. And I also want to really thank our panelists that are here, because just like you, they have families. They have large businesses, many employees, many demands, lots of people reporting to them and asking of them. However, they're taking the time to be here today to share their knowledge, share their expertise, share some of the things that they are thinking about as they themselves and their firms navigate these times. And so really honored that they've agreed to participate in this and that they're here today. And also that this is a movement that we're creating here. And we had over 970 people registered for this webinar. And we know some of you had challenges getting on here today, but this is the largest organization of this industry that I've ever heard of, and everyone coming together in one place. And we are all positioning ourselves to be in a great position when the dust settles from this. So with that said, let's turn this over to the panelists who are here and feel very fortunate that they've all come together today. So we're going to start with an introduction, and then we'll go through the questions. You probably missed the intro that there will be a QA that you can type in, and we will ask those questions at the end. We might have to go over a little bit on that time, depending, but also we're going to take this after the webinar over to Slack. If you don't have a Slack account yet, you can go to sopslack.com. That's serves the process, sopslack.com. Put in your information. We will approve you during the meeting, and then you will be able to ask additional questions if we don't get to them during this. So let's start with our panelists here, and if you guys don't mind introducing yourself, starting with Alex. Just your name, your title at your organization, the firm that you're with, the head count, if you don't mind sharing, years the firm's been in business, how you yourself got into the industry, location, and the services that your firm handles. Let's just say in normal times.
All right. Well, thank you, Trent and Adam, for putting this together. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to be part of it. My name is Alex Martinez. I'm the CEO of Firefly Legal. First Legal has been in business since the early 1980s. I merged my company with First Legal in 2003. Like most people in this industry, I sort of fell into it. I was at UCLA and got a job off a job board that happened to be hiring for a customer service rep in this industry. And I thought I was going to do that job until I graduated and go do other things, and worked there at that company for about 5 years and started my own business, and been in this business since 1991 now, 29 years in this industry. First Legal has 5 different service lines. It has an e-discovery division, a private investigation division, a records retrieval division, a court reporting division, but our core business is filing and serving legal documents. We have 550 W-2 employees. The great majority of those are in the attorney service side. We have about 400 on the attorney service of those 550. And we have offices in California, Arizona, and Nevada.
Great, thank you. And I think that everybody will note that some of these inroads to these industries are not dissimilar from where you are today or where you are in your organization. And that's a common theme that we hear is we got exposed to this industry and started working in it and worked hard and cultivated relationships and heads down. And now you're leading one of the largest organizations in the country. Marty, how about you?
Sure. Again, I want to echo what Alex said. Thanks for having us. Really a pleasure to be here, and I hope we can help you as you go through this journey with us and this challenge that we're facing. My name is Marty Kilmer. I'm the COO for One Legal. I've been with One Legal now for 2 years. I came up a little bit differently. I'm a California attorney, and I spent 25 years in the LexisNexis Reed Elsevier world. During that time, I worked with CourtLink and File and Serve, and so then ultimately took a little bit of a circuitous route to get here, met Robert and the team, and came over to do some of the business transformation that we've been going through, up to and including a recent acquisition of One Legal by InfoTrack. We're at about 125 people. We're located in our headquarters is in Petaluma, California. We focus largely on California, but other states, including Texas, Indiana, Illinois. We service, our product lines really include service to process, e-filing, concierge service, and physical filing as well. So really a bunch of litigation support services that we provide to our customers. Just like Alex, I started in 1991 with Lexis. I'm a little bit older, so I'm coming up on 30 years in that business. But it's really been a pleasure, and I've learned a lot working with One Legal for the last couple of years.
Great, thanks, Marty. And Keith.
Hey guys, thanks for everybody for tuning in today. I'm Keith McMaster. I'm the co-founder of Firefly Legal. Our office is on the south suburbs of Chicago, but we also have physical offices in other states like Ohio and Florida. I've been in the business for about 30 years. I started with my father, back when I was a kid in high school, from sealing envelopes to, growing up and doing court filing to process serving, skip tracing. So every aspect of the company, I've at one point learned it, touched it, done something with it. So I've been in the business a long time. And Firefly Legal will be celebrating its 25th anniversary come January this next 2021. So that's a big milestone for our company. We have over 70 employees in our offices, and then we've got hundreds of, I guess you would call them in-house process servers, and then just countless affiliates and partners across the nation and throughout parts of the globe. So we may have offices in just 3 states, but we virtually handle many other regions and areas as well.
Great. Thank you, Keith, and welcome. And then finally, Ross Mallor.
Hey guys, Ross Mallor, president of PM Legal. I just want to thank everyone for putting this together and for joining us and watching us present today. So PM Legal, we're based out of New York and New Jersey. We have 3 offices in New York. Our biggest office, our main office, is in Lower Manhattan. And then we have 2 offices in New Jersey. We handle 3 main product lines. Process serving is the bulk of our work, but we have 2 other product lines that kind of lead into that business as well, which are court clerical work, basic court filings, and private investigation work. And on the private investigation side, it mostly tailors towards helping out attorneys, not really individuals. Everything from witness statements to accident location investigations and medical record retrieval. And I got into the industry in 2001. I joined my dad, who was a private investigator. It was just me and him at the time. And he'd been in the industry for about 20 years at that point. So we're around since 1980. And now we have around 200 employees and 1099s that work for us in the New York, New Jersey region. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you, Ross. And let's jump into the next question here, starting with Marty. Can you share how One Legal has been impacted by COVID-19 and what everyone's calling the new normal?
Sure. I really break it down into three different ways we've been impacted fundamentally. One's financially, and we can all talk about that. Certainly there have been implications with the courts, with the staying in place, with how far we can get close we can get to each other, all those things. So financially, it's been an impact. Culturally, how we run our business. With the fires in California, we got a little bit ahead because we created remote access for all our employees last year, but we've really had to rely on that infrastructure and capability to let people work from home and have access into our systems, whether that includes their VPN or how we do meetings like this in Zoom, our security around that. So we got a little bit in front of that, and we've been having to rely on it heavily. The third one's really culturally or strategically, and that is we went from talking about our 3-year plans to our 5-day, 5-week, 5-month plans. And really we've had to focus on that now as our business has slowed fundamentally across some of those product lines. And I also look at our financial one a little bit differently, and I think this will resonate with everyone. We know the business is going to come back. So we talk about financial implications that are immediate, but really are deferred or delayed revenue. So our business, we're getting a lot of orders, particularly for service of process, at about 70% of where we were before. Now, that's the coming input. It's the output that's the problem. So we're creating a lot of inventory. We're stacking a lot of jobs and waiting for the courts to open up. So part of our planning really is how we accelerate coming out of this and be ready when the courts and systems open.
Great. Thanks, Marty. And I think that's, oh, sorry. Sorry, I didn't realize you had more.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. That's fine.
So I think just one comment on that, and a lot of what they do is in California, but really hard to be looking at 3-year or 1-year goals when everybody should just be focused on the day and the week ahead, and what are those top priorities right now, because everything is changing. You'll come back to those 3-year goals at some point, but now it's really about being laser focused on what is immediately ahead of you and how do you prepare. Keith.
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we've seen change is, and I'm guessing this is across the board, is the volume. The volume's just decreased dramatically, whether it's court filings, whether it's service of process. I mean, even skip traces are related to that. So that's been heavily affected. And for Firefly, we're involved in the collections industry and the foreclosure industry. So we may be a little more affected than other people that handle different matters. Just today, I saw that 3 million people right now are in forbearance plans, and about 5.95% of the population is in a forbearance plan. Every governor has issued different stay-at-home orders. And every governor in different states has issued different mandatory foreclosure or collection moratoriums. So going state to state, region to region is drastically different. Not that it wasn't before with courts and how everybody held their own county, but the volume has decreased. For our industry, mostly industry has been frozen. It's a lot of our clients are on hold, waiting. Some have voluntarily decided to put their files on hold. Some have kind of jumped ahead and said, hey, can you find out these addresses before we send out the files to the courts? So those are some of the things that we're doing. In all of the states that we've been in, outside of a few counties here and there, service of process has been an essential business. The legal industry has been an essential business. There's few counties in Florida in particular where they said, no, service of process is not essential, and we haven't served there. But everywhere else, we are allowed to serve. It's a matter of, are the courts accepting the files? Are the courts filing the files? You know, and do our clients want to pursue and go after a debt at this time when the American economy is suffering?
Yeah, thanks for the update. And another segment of that where there's lots of volume is unlawful detainers and rent. And with a moratorium on evictions, that's another high volume segment that is certainly questionable there. How about Ross?
Yeah, so in New York, all the courts are closed for the most part right now. I mean, they're open, but they're not taking in any new cases for the majority of work that we handle, which are in the personal injury landlord-tenant world. So, but remember the thing about our industry is we fight back against recession, against any problems, against anything that's ever happened historically. We're not like a restaurant where if one of your clients misses a meal, they're going to have lunch twice in the same day, 3 months down the road. Any cases that aren't being filed today will be filed eventually. We will see a gap in new work just because over the course of the last few weeks and over the next few weeks, there's just less traffic on the street. There's fewer accidents, but all the foreclosures, all the other work out there, all the personal injury matters that are on hold right now will eventually be filed. So while our business has changed now, we're really laser focused on the employees that we've kept on board, trying to maximize the work that they are doing, because we've had a furlough, close to 60% of our staff. So the ones that we've kept on, they're doing different things. They're, our data entry person might be doing data entry as well as some client contact, and our account managers are handling some different things as well. So it's changed in terms of individuals' responsibilities, but we're also trying to take advantage of this time to kind of take a step back and look at how we can be more efficient moving forward and be more profitable in the future.
Yeah, I think the overarching theme is that there is not only the pent-up litigation, and there's also the litigation that's going to come from this, from employment and all the other obvious channels of litigation that will be coming, and we'll certainly, we're all anticipating there being a lot of that. Alex, how about First Legal?
Well, we're in the more civil litigation. We're not in the collection or bulk process business. So California is an interesting state. It's a big state. There's a lot of counties, and every court has handled it differently. Some are closed. Some are putting drop boxes out front for filing. Some are you're still electronically filed. Some are accepting filings but not processing. Some are processing them. So it's really a mixed bag. And it's really been hard to gauge the workflows because based on the court is the output. But for us, our volume has been on the attorney service side, like everybody's very heavily affected. We're running about 50% overall volume. And then in between, service process has been surprisingly strong. It's probably only down about 30%. Our over-the-counter filings is essentially gone. And electronic filing has been less, but consistent. So it's really been a mixed bag for us. We've had other pockets of our business that have ticked up a little bit, like the messenger side. We still have a courier component, but we're doing a lot of jobs that we haven't done in the past, taking things to attorneys' houses and picking up medications and just weird one-off jobs. But overall, our volume's down about 50% in the core business. Surprisingly, our records retrieval business has been very consistent. We've only had about a 10% reduction there. And I've talked to a lot of attorneys around it. You have this really weird dynamic right now of the courts trying to be socially conscious and protect their employees and the public. And then you have the lawyers who are trying to create billable hours. So you have this, they're trying to figure out ways to work remotely, and that took a couple weeks. But they're starting to work now. They're starting to figure it out, just like us. One Legal, Marty was talking about, they've had some experience going remote. We were, all of our people worked at home. I mean, worked at the office. We had very few people that worked remotely. So we had a tremendous push towards getting people out of the offices. We only have about 10% of our remaining staff working in the office. We have about 90% working remotely. So that was a big undertaking for us to move everybody out of the offices. But I will say on the service process side, because this is what this call is primarily about, to I believe it was Keith's point, we're still serving papers out here. We're really conscious of public perception, and we're trying to have our process servers be very sensitive to people, trying to keep that space. We really don't want any backlash in the community towards process servings at this time. And so when you're dealing with I won't say hysteria, but the heightened awareness of this pandemic, we're really spending a lot of time with our people trying to make sure that we can still be part of the litigation process, be productive, retain some of our volume, but also being good social partners out there as we continue to do our work.
Great. Well, thank you, Alex. And you touched on something that I know we've mentioned on previous webinars, but I'll mention it again. Your clients, the law firms that do this work, they went through the same transition that many of you had to go through in terms of if you were working in an office, they had to figure out how to do that at scale. Some of these have thousands of employees at these law firms, and they had to figure out all those details about how do we continue our way of life, our business, our workflow, while you've also got a spouse or a roommate and kids in the background, and still figure out how to bill and deliver value to their clients and keep everything going. So, it's not just, we're not just the ones that have to figure out how to do this. Our clients have to, and their clients have to as well. So thanks for sharing that, Alex. Let's move on to the next topic, and we'll start with Ross here in terms of, we'll start with Keith. What's different about the way you're operating? Some of you guys have touched on this a little bit in terms of furloughs or layoffs, but also I want to hear, Alex, I know you just talked a little bit about some of the pivots that you've done in terms of picking up prescriptions and things for your clients. But Keith, if you don't mind sharing, what's different now?
Sure. We at Firefly, we've kind of been through this a little bit before with foreclosure moratoriums back in the earlier part of this decade, and luckily I've got a great staff that just jumped right to it, and we were all over things to do. But I'm going to just kind of take you through how Firefly handled the whole situation, kind of handling those first 3 bullet points there. We heard over the one weekend in March that San Francisco had issued a stay-at-home order, and this is something that you just never would hear of in the United States, right? You see it in Italy, you hear it in Spain, whatever, but you wouldn't think it's going to happen in the United States. But come that Monday, when we got back to the office, we met with the IT staff, implemented a plan, and that day we made sure that we had the security protocols in place, and we started sending people home to test out how the remote setting would work. By Friday, we had, I would say, just like Alex, probably most of our staff was working from home. And then on Saturday, the governor from Illinois issued the stay-at-home orders. And at the time, you don't know if that's going to be, if you're an essential business or not. So you have to be 2 steps ahead of everybody else to make sure that your business can go on. Another thing that we implemented, and I don't know, for all of everybody out there, we know cash is king in our business. So you don't know what businesses are going to come out of this surviving. Which one of your clients will be around and survive this coronavirus or any other economic disaster that happens like this. So one of the things that our finance department immediately started doing was offering 10% off to any of our over 90-day bills that were out there, trying to collect money, get the cash in. And at this time, the government hadn't issued a PPP or any EIDLs. So we were jumping on that as fast as we could. Operationally, our management team was looking at, when it comes to our hourly employees, like which ones are our subject matter experts, which ones do we need to make sure that are here to process any work that goes on, which ones can we help and move over to the unemployment side. And with what happened with the government with the $600, our job was to ensure that they had a job to come back to. So we were trying to manage that the best we could, and we did. We had a furlough about half of our staff, so we first were working remotely, and then we furloughed half of that staff that was working remotely. Now, due to the PPP loans, we've been able to bring everybody back as of Monday, and now we've got everybody back. So now having people back, it's time to, focus on how can we improve, right? We're doing half the volume, so there's not as much time, or there's way more time for our hourly employees to learn new things, do new things. So what we've implemented from our staff is a cross-training platform. Every single hourly employee by the end of this virus will know how to do everybody else's job. And when it comes time to, when the work does come back, we'll be able to move staff remote, we can work them remotely, we can work them on site, whatever needs to happen, but our data entry is probably going to get slammed when this starts to unleash. So we'll be able to move people around, and our company will almost be back to a point of just like a startup, everything's clean, everything's good, get those email inboxes clean, nothing that we missed. So, and we're staying engaged with our employees through Google Hangouts, Join Me, and having virtual meetings and looking at our people in person, making sure that we talk to everybody constantly. And we're really working to keep the employees engaged.
Great. It sounds like you're getting the, everything in order, doing some house cleaning, some housekeeping, and making sure that you've got the internal resources out, so that you can reallocate as needed and you can be prepared. Ross, how about you guys?
Yeah, so what we did was we're at a weird spot in our company's history, whereas we really do love close to 100% of our staff. And being a larger organization, there's always times when you have a handful of employees that you're not fondest of. But we got to a point in our company where we really didn't want to lose anyone. So when we realized that we were going to have to furlough people, we didn't fire anyone, we didn't lay anyone off. Everything was done through furloughs, so that we could continue to pay their health insurance for at least the month of, I don't even know what month we're in anymore, this month plus the next month. So we were trying to be a good company and good people to our staff who have always kicked butt for us over the years. So we were really careful to figure out, using the government formula of how much money people would make on unemployment, figuring out if it would be best to put someone on half-time with us, or 15 hours a week or 10 hours a week, to we would do the calculation to figure out how they could make the most amount of money while still being a productive employee for us, and keeping sharp and still keeping in touch with our clients. So I guess it's state to state's going to be different, and obviously company to company. But great idea. What was just mentioned was to make sure that you do train your employees to kind of be able to handle different areas, because when we go back, data entry is going to be crazy. And we're doing something similar where we're trying to set it up so that we're data entering as much work as possible now, even if it can't be handled. And we're trying to route our servers or our court people as best as possible now, so that when they say go, we're going to be just the most efficient machine in the world. And, we always joke in our industry that we're kind of like the mail, right? Like, you never have a day where you get to the office and you're like, oh, I have nothing to do today, I'm going to work on cleaning up this area. Every day it's just, we're slammed, we're insane. We're dealing with deadlines. Now's the time to really clean up those reports and those projects and make sure that everything has been billed that maybe that might have slipped by in the past. Go through your rates, make sure that you're competitive. In terms of services, I know Alex touched on it earlier, that he's picking up, prescription medication for his clients. I've always joked with my clients when they ask me, what do we do? I list our services, and then I'm like, you know what? If you want us to get you a Big Mac, we'll get you a Big Mac. Like, we don't care what we do for you, as long as it's legal and and morally correct, we'll always do it. So we do some work for Alex actually in New York, and one of our first assignments when the whole shutdown happened was we had to go get a chair for one of Alex's clients from their office and deliver to their home. So, just touching on what everyone said, we're kind of similar, whether we're bigger or smaller or one-man shops. I mean, we all kind of touch on the same areas. With regards to managing remote work, we're one of our companies that we own is a tech company called eLaw. So we're very tech savvy. We're able to set up remote working as quickly as possible. So that was great. And we're just trying to, keep our employees engaged as best as possible. Zoom calls every Friday and one other day during the week to make sure that everyone can see each other and remember how much they like each other. So.
Awesome. I love it and love hearing about the focus. It's everybody should be thinking about their clients and how do you endear yourself to your clients at this time. And, as long as it's legal and ethical, help them and you have the wherewithal to help them, do it.
But one other service, so the way that you notarize a document now is different in New York, where you can do remote notarization. So we've offered it to some of our larger clients to do free remote notarizations for them, just as a way to show them what a great vendor we can be towards them. Because it's not something that we would make a ton of money on anyway. So we'd rather just show them that during this tough time, we're here to help them out. And so we're notarizing documents for some of the bigger insurance companies who employees may not have felt comfortable doing remote notarizations at this time.
Great. Love it. Alex.
Yeah. And thanks for picking up that chair, Russ. We've got stranger requests than that, but no. So for us, we've tried our best to retain. We haven't received any PPP loans at this point. We've applied, but we haven't. So we're sort of in that middle ground right now. But we did have to furlough about 20% of our W-2 employees, which is unfortunate because you, like Ross said, you have people that have taken the bullets for you for many, many years. So for them to be in a space right now with that unknown is very tough. We've tried very hard with HR to make sure that they have all the resources available to them. We have covered their medical in the interim. But that's always a tough decision. I know many people are going through that. The remaining people, we're trying to keep them as productive as possible because this is the dilemma everybody's in right now. No one's lost clients, you've lost work. So you still have the same client base, you just have less work and you have less staff to support that client base. And the client base needs are still there. So we're trying to be creative in many ways, one with client outreach and one is with employee outreach. To Ross's point, we've done virtual cocktail hours all the time, internally and externally. I do a virtual cocktail hour every Friday with a different subset of employees just to try to get FaceTime and encourage our local managers to do that. And our sales staff has been very engaged with our client base. And I would tell everyone there, everyone here, this is a great time for outreach. You don't want to be salesy at this time at all. You just want to make sure your clients know you're there, know you're available to them, and be supportive to them because they're scared right now. Law firms are scared just like we are. They're in a whole nother environment and they're trying to figure out how to get things done and they have unique needs right now. And if you can position yourself as a trusted partner to them and someone that they can rely on this time, that goodwill you're going to generate during this crazy time is going to pay dividends going forward. So we're focusing very hard on client outreach and engagement in a very non-salesy supported way. And then internally, I forget who said it, I think it was Keith said it, but we're doing a ton of online training. We have an online training system and we're trying to get people, whether it's in customer service skills or cross training, you do have a staff that doesn't have the same workload and they want to be engaged. So we're trying to think of ways to keep them engaged and keep them productive until things ramp up. So it's training, a lot of training, a lot of client outreach, and trying to think of unique ways to get in front of them. I would say, as someone said right now, it's hard to have a strategic plan. Right now, it's in this time. Right now, you're trying to get through the day. It's sort of like the NCAA tournament. It's like survive in advance. You're just trying to get through the day to the next day. But I would say that one of the ways that we've looked at it, and some of you have hit on it earlier, but very rarely do you get an opportunity to sort of redesign a mature business. this whole thing has shaken up the industry. I know we're going to talk later about what the future will bring, but we're really spending a lot of time at the executive level trying to figure out what we want our company to be like post-pandemic, because you have options now. You have opportunities to train people. Things are just going to be different. What they're going to be, who knows? But very rarely, I think Ross said it, you come to work every day and there's work on the plate. Let's just get through the day, go, go, go. And now we've really tried, and I would encourage everyone to look at your business from top to bottom right now and really take advantage of the time while the volume isn't there, to really figure out who you want to be when you come out of this, because it's an opportunity that it probably comes every decade or so, but we're trying our best to figure out, we want to be our best self when we come out of it, and we want to put ourselves in our best position to be a better version of what we are. So I would encourage everybody to be introspective at this point.
Great. Thank you, Al. It's something every one of us can do that. It doesn't matter how large of a firm or how small of a firm we are. If it's just you and you're new, we can all be, applying that same thought and methodology. Marty, how about One Legal?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I think you're going to hear some recurring things from me that you've heard from the other gentlemen. But I think it's really also important to understand that each one of us is in a different phase of this whole process. Some are waiting for money, some have applied, some are keeping all their staff on. And it really comes down to the very first thing that we saw, and that was your survey of when things are going to get back to normal. And everyone has a different view. And whether we say 52% say it's going to be 2 to 3 months, well, there may be 25% which think it takes a little bit longer. And so we have been looking at it from a pretty broad horizon and saying, if cash is king, like Ross said, or Keith said, how do you run that business over that period of time to make sure that you survive and are there and are healthy and strong when you come out of it? So we've done a variety of things. We did furlough a significant portion of our staff. In fact, over 50% of our staff. We do pay their insurance, and we've committed to do that. We did bring in our core support group, kept them on, so we call it a lights on or skeleton team. And really, we've communicated to our customers extensively that we're open for business. We're there to meet their needs. We're going to adapt to drop boxes or filings or e-service or whatever it takes in order to meet those needs. But at the same time, we have had to be conscientious of the fact that our service levels are going to drop off just a little bit. So we've changed some of our hours for customer support calls, for example, or we've moved the time frame for submitting a document to us to get it filed or served. So we've had to do some adjustments, and all the while communicating extensively with our customers. So we put up blogs every week. We monitor all the things that are going on in the courts, particularly in California, because each one of those counties, as Alex said, changing things daily.
Right.
There's a new rule that comes out in the county. And in fact, it was early on, someone said, we can serve everywhere. Well, just yesterday, we had a customer call us that said, my provider's telling me that if they serve this document for me, they're going to get potentially fined $1,000. Well, we have to then monitor that and see if that's really the case. In fact, we found another provider that said, no, we can serve it. And so there's a lot of communication and interpretation, and our customers really are saying, help us understand what's going on, because there's just too much information. We've continued to adapt as this has gone on. In fact, it was funny. You said, London shut down San Francisco. Well, I was waiting to get on a plane to go back to San Francisco that day and just stopped. So now you see I'm sitting in my kitchen because my wife has the office. And so we all are changing things in how we're doing them.
Right.
And that's what we've done. So we've looked at it holistically. We look at that time frame between now and what we believe is 3 or 4 months from now. We bring on staff every week based on what the need and demand is. And so every week since we've started and really shut down the staff, we've added 3 to 5 people every week to address the needs. And we communicate really each week. So the internal team, I have a daily stand-up with my guys. They have daily stand-ups with their teams. We have a group stand-up once a week. We actually have gone to text to communicate with our staff. So we text them every week with an update about what's going on. And then obviously we put as much information we can out on our websites so they can see it at any time. So we're really communicating both internally and externally on a frequent basis. And yeah, we do some of those same things. Just tell us how you're feeling. We spend a lot of time, I'm available all the time. I'm like, look, I know you have things going on in your life that's impacting you. We should talk about it. So we do some of that as well.
Right. Yeah, you touched on a number of important things. So firstly, I just want to, in terms of the information that's changing every day, we recognize that that's a real problem. That's one of the reasons why we launched the Slack channel. And there is a COVID section, there are state sections, so you can go there and update information on a state-specific channel there, but also on the COVID channel as a resource and a place to keep people in the loop because it's changing. We've also built as I know many of you have as well, built a COVID-19 section, COVID-19 for process servers section on the ServeNow website. We've done a number of those things as well, Marty, in terms of just making sure we're keeping our team focused and united. We're doing daily video huddles with the various business units, weekly all hands with the entire team, and just making sure we're checking on them for what I believe is something that's really important and a good segue into our next question. In terms of the predictions and the prep, and I want to go to the sort of a lightning round on this just because we're running. I know we had the hiccup at the beginning, but if we can get through we've got 2 more questions. If we can get through them pretty quickly, that would be great so we can roll this over. So we've got room for a couple of the questions from the audience, and then we can bring these over to Slack for the AMA Ask Me Anything. So the next one, if we can go through this quickly, and Ross, starting with you, what predictions do you have about the future and how's your firm preparing for what we will assume will be a significant amount of work in the industry when we all get back to the normal? I know you've touched on a couple of these things, but if you don't mind just sharing sort of quickly if there's anything else that you didn't share already.
Sure. So I'll be the super positive guy for once. I'm usually my wife will say I'm always the earth is falling type of person. But after 9/11 and being a New Yorker my whole life, after 9/11, we never thought things would ever get back to normal, especially in New York, especially in downtown New York. And now downtown New York, not only did they rebuild the Trade Center, but it's maybe the most expensive place to live in the entire city now is right where the Trade Center bombing occurred. So things will get back to normal in our industry. They always, always, always do. For me to tell you guys when, it would just be me guessing. But what do I think? I think in the next couple of months, things will start going back to normal. And it's just a matter of statistically, it has to get back to normal. I believe from a marketing standpoint, I'll just touch on that really quick because I'm always trying to think of creative ways to market our company. Alex said before, it's not a great time to sell, and I agree with him. It's not, you don't want to call up a new client and say, hey, do you like your process server? Please use us. What we're doing is I'm trying to become a resource for the New York legal market and try to be the first one to post on LinkedIn or email blasts, letting my clients know what's going on in the court system. And anytime I hear any bit of information, like when Cuomo had the statute of limitations extended, I immediately went to LinkedIn. It was like, I think 1 a.m. when it officially came out. I went onto LinkedIn, I posted it right away, just so clients were like, wow, Ross and PM Legal, these are guys that I want to get information from. So if you look to if your clients look to you as a source of information and not just sales, that sale will just happen naturally when they share that information with other colleagues of theirs and they find out that you're the ones that are providing this information.
Great. Alex.
It's interesting how the industry will change. The legal market is very adverse to technology. They adopt very slowly. E-filing in California. I see everything through the prism of California, so I know there's a broad-based audience here, but in California, the e-filing initiative is still going on. It's been implemented everywhere in the world except California, and it's still not implemented everywhere. So I don't think there's a huge change in the industry in California, other than you might see like notices, moving papers go more to it without having people having to stipulate to it. You may see more moving documents go that way. A bigger movement towards electronic filing to keep the courts safe. But we've seen it more in other parts of our business, like in depositions, where they're really starting to push remote depositions where everybody can do it virtually. So right. I think there'll be a big movement there. But in the core business, I don't see anything earth-shattering coming out of this in the short term, because I just think it's woven into the DNA of the state that in the legal field, it just moves slowly. The new normal, I'm probably not pessimistic, but I'm not as optimistic as Ross there. I do think we're in for the long haul a little bit here in California. LA Superior Court's not opening until June 22nd scheduled right now. California is very conservative, their approach, very progressive in their philosophical, but trials aren't going to start till August. So I don't see us normalizing in California until the probably third or fourth quarter as far as volume. But even then, I wouldn't say it would be normal until probably early next year. And then I do expect there to be a very large uptick in volume. And I would say the last two bullet points, still marketing. We are still marketing in an awareness campaign, just that we're alive and out there.
Right.
But as far as what you're doing to prepare, I'm going to say this for the third time, but two people said cash is king. This is the hardest part for companies. I know some people got some PPP money, and that's great, and most people will. But even still, when you have reduced volume over a period of time, right now, generally people are collecting revenue from previous months and paying less bills because their staff is down, whatever. When we have 3-4 months of reduced revenue and you go into an uptick, you're going to be paying accelerated bills and costs with more employees, more expenses with a very limited accounts receivable base. So for us, we're really looking at making sure that we've cut back on all non-essential expenses, that we're really, putting all our acorns away for the winter here, because we're gonna, even though business is going to go up, whether it's the third quarter, fourth quarter next year, people are going to be cash poor. And I would make sure that you have good relationships with the bank. If you have banking relationships, I would make sure that any money you have, you squirrel away, because to take advantage of this uptick, which we're all salivating for, you're going to need to have the resources to support that. So I would encourage everyone to be very disciplined in these next couple months, as far as financially, to make sure that when that uptick occurs, we all can take advantage of that.
Great feedback. Thanks, Alex. Marty.
Yeah, it's great. So as you've heard, the panelists are a little bit of a spectrum as well. And that's right. It's speculative. Let me first talk about the industry. It is a slow moving industry. Many of us have been in it for 30 years, and we're doing some of the things we did 30 years ago as it comes to litigation support. So it is slow moving. I do think it'll ratchet up. There's enough frustration right now in the culture and the communities about the relationship. You see a lot of lawsuits being filed now. We see people getting the bails being reduced. So there's a lot of frustration around the manual processes and the need to have to go directly into the court. So I think it'll ratchet up, but I do still think it's a long-term transition as we move to more technology, particularly in places like California that have so many voices that are being heard. There are new opportunities, and one of the things I didn't mention before, in addition to some of the things about keeping up and working for our clients and training, we're also still developing products. So we're spending some time right now investing in our future and what products and services we'll be able to add on to that as we come out of it. To the point, you can market to people, but it's a hard time to ask them to spend more money and introduce new products, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be ready to go as we come out of it. So we're doing that, and that's part of what we're doing to prepare. The new normal, yeah, we're all hoping that it's going to be more than it was before, and it certainly will be that for a period of time, and a little bit more with Alex, that I think that's a third or fourth quarter real return to even an 80% level.
Great. Thanks, Marty. And Keith.
All right. So some of the things that I know we talked maybe about how the industry will change, but when it comes to our offices, I think remote workers has been kind of a success, and you could see how using remote workers can maybe give you an advantage here or there, or you become more flexible as a company, or your employees don't miss out on important family events, or whatever the case is. But I do think remote work is not going to disappear. I think electronic signature, this will really help promote electronic signature, and that'll be more widely accepted, along with e-filing, e-service, but those will lag behind e-signatures. And one thing that some of our clients are starting to ask us is, what is your continuity plan, right? So a little late to ask us about that because we already had to implement it, but we obviously have developed it over this time. So I think clients are going to come and ask you what your continuity plan is. And so this might be a great time to really start looking at that. Well, volume's down, put together, how did you change to this new normal? And put that all down, make sure that your security protocols are in place. And now you have a continuity plan. And that actually can be a marketing tool later on, not at this time.
Right.
I have to agree with Alex a little bit. Firefly is preparing for April 2021. So for us in the foreclosure industry, collection industry, we've already watched the dates get backlogged. So if you're looking at dates that were in April and March, already pushed to July and August, that's going to back things up. Then our clients are going to have to go through each file and determine, is this worthy of forbearance? Is this not? And every file will probably need to be analyzed before they send it to our clients to file. And then it's a matter of our clients ramping up. It's a matter of their clients ramping up. And then it's a matter of the courts ramping up. So for us at Firefly, we're preparing for April 2021. And I think that's a great outlook for us. Like if we can prepare for that, yet we're taking it day by day. So we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. And hopefully I'm wrong and that comes back a lot sooner. You know, I'd have no problems with July, August, September. So that's some of the things that we're doing. I think we're also making sure that our clients know that, hey, we're still here. Here's some of the new rules, like others have said, but we're not marketing for new opportunities. We're just letting them know, hey, we're here and we're not going away. So.
And sometimes marketing is just letting them know that you're still here and here to help, and these additional pieces and making sure that the brand's still there. So here's, I know that we are over for this. It wasn't our intent. Obviously, we started late, or we restarted because of the technical challenge. So we're gonna field, Steve, if we've got one or two questions that you want to field, and we'll field those now, and then if not, then we can move all these over to Slack, where we've got another, call it 25 minutes with everyone in Slack to answer some of these questions. I want to really apologize again. Our intent is to finish these on time, and when we say we do, but sorry, we had a technical issue. So Steve, anything that's jumping out at you as a quick question, or you want to bring those over to Slack?
I've got some of the best questions in all of our meetings, but I'm going to answer a few real quick, but then I'm going to set a couple to the panelists if we could. First of all, there's a misconception that some people have that EIDL and PP, the payroll protection plan, that they don't qualify for either one of those. It might be harder to get an EIDL loan, but even if you're an independent contractor, you just have to be able to substantiate, in other words, prove your income, and you can get a PPL, a payroll protection plan loan. Another thing that I want to answer real quick is that everybody should apply for unemployment, the furlough part of unemployment, because it's just temporary. Get all these things in line so that you can have options in moving forward. The states now are allowing, the federal government is allowing states to pay independent contractors that have never paid a penny in unemployment for unemployment. So that's probably going to be the fastest thing you can get while you're waiting on them to refund the payroll protection plan. And then once that is refunded, immediately go put in several applications in different locations. To the panelists, I think Ross, they asked specifically a question about New York. What are the plans for handling the surge in New York? So if you can answer that real quick, then I'll get another question for everyone.
Yeah, so the way we're set up is we have around 60 something process servers under or in our world in the New York area, whether they're W-2s or 1099s. We're taking this time, or we will take the next couple of weeks before we fully open up, to really route everyone as efficiently as possible, to make sure that if we send a server to a specific geographic location, that they're serving any papers within arm's reach from where they are. I don't want servers crisscrossing territories right now more than ever, because we really do see a huge spike in volume. Again, I might be in a little different world than most, because we handle mostly civil litigation and personal injury, not as much, we do no collection work or bankruptcy work. So I think it's really vertical dependent on what type of volume you guys are going to see and in what type of time frame. But in terms of handling the work in New York, we have an abundance of process servers. We're going to have no problem getting those papers served.
Right. Thank you. Hey, Keith, you do debt, if I remember correctly?
Yep.
Okay. There's a question in regards to two things for you. One, in regards to compliance. How are you addressing compliance when people are working remotely? And the other side of that would be, well, go ahead and answer that, and then I'll give you the other question.
Sure. So for the compliance, I mean, we have really tight contracts that we're under with many of our clients. So we had to look at each position individually and what aspect of a file do they touch, and anything dealing with a confidential or security protocol based item that had to stay in our office. And what we did is we did a little sorting and retraining and shifting of people. But if it was basic data entry, those people were good to go. If it was approving, or if it was customer service and calling process servers or calling some of our other great affiliates across the country, that was good to go to the remote setting. So some of our accounting processes, some of our IT, all of our IT is at home. So in our office, we don't have strictly, people just processing files. We have that finance department, IT department, customer service department, data entry department. And so many of those departments, those were first to go. When it came to anything dealing with security, we made sure that stayed in-house, and we made sure that the appropriate people and management were most of the people handling that. So most, and a lot of our collection-based work had been put on hold voluntarily by our clients because they were really, feeling it for the American population as well. So that was the one thing that we did. We sorted and shifted and made sure that everything we did was by the books according to all our contracts.
Okay, great. And second question to you, because you deal in debt. And I'm not sure, Alex, I think do you deal in debt at all?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
So Keith, let me get back to you. Marty, what about yourself?
A little bit, but it's really not core to our business, right?
Okay, cool. Let me just address this to you then, Keith. In regards to some states are considering moratorium on debt that could be 6 to 18 months. And then there's two pieces of federal legislation, one on the House side and one on the Senate side, in regards to federal debt collection moratorium. What are your thoughts on that, those bills passing, and how long do you think that these bills would be around? And what is your business going to do in the meantime if you have a large section of it doing debt?
Sure. And I think this goes for the foreclosure side as well, because you look back at 2012, 2013, when foreclosures hit an all-time high, the government just cut it off and put a moratorium on foreclosures. And at that time, that was 6 months. So this isn't something that's strange to us, which is also why my prediction and our company has to be looking at April 2021 or September 2021 when you think of 18 months down the road. And there's no telling when this virus is going to end and when we're going to go back to normal. All we can plan for is the new normal during the abnormal. So but we are planning for those moratoriums, and we're watching it. And every state, every county is going to be different. But I could see a federal moratorium happening on student loans or on foreclosures or on any sort of debt that's out there. So we're definitely preparing for that, and we're staying in close contact with our clients. I know there's a big movement out there as well to contact senators and congressmen about pushing against those bills, but I'm not sure how much that's going to affect our congressman's thought process right now.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Hey, Alex, let me ask you a question real quick.
Steve, let's make this a quick one, last one, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start a poll that we have in Zoom as well. Then I'm going to encourage everyone to jump over to Slack immediately after this for the few minutes that our panelists might have available to them.
Okay, Alex, and this is comes in from Jeff Karakin, our friend. Jeff.
Hey Jeff, how you doing?
Hey, yeah, I know. I when I see his name, I always light up too.
Hey Jeff.
Do you anticipate business and a ton of business and personal bankruptcies coming out of this? And if so, how do you think that these bankruptcy issues will impact the recovery of the nation? If you want to tell us your thoughts on that.
Well, I can answer the first question. The second one, I think, is a larger question. But as far as, I think that there's going to be a huge economic impact, negative economic impact. I've talked to a couple of people that it's so funny. You get all kinds of opinions, but I think people tend to minimize how impactful this is going to be. And I do think there's going to be a big uptick in bankruptcies and even with all the federal protocols that are going to get in place for people not being able to be removed from their homes or things like that. I still think there's going to be a huge uptick in the industry in this. I liken it to the 2008 crash a little bit. We had a tremendous spike in litigation after that. They always say in good times people litigate, in bad times people litigate more. So I do think that you're going to have a downhill effect from this that's going to cause a lot of economic upheaval. And that will trickle to us in increased litigation. Now there are some negative consequences to that because last time we had this, we got greater volume, but we got paid slower by our law firms. Many of our law firms went out of business. And so you had more volume, but we had a bigger increase in receivable issues and things like that. So it's not all, roses and daisies. So, but I do think there's going to be, now as far as like the overall impact of like a worldwide or a countrywide, what that's going to mean to us, I'll defer to smarter people to that. But I definitely do think that you're going to have a very large uptick in litigation in the short term.
All right, thank you guys. I appreciate you doing this. And this just goes to show you, united, we are strong. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I'll throw in there, panelists, thank you so much. Attendees, thank you so much. We're sorry about the snafu, but I think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish today. And we got some great insight from the leaders in some of the larger legal support companies in our industry. Adam, I'll hand it over to you for some parting words here in a second. I do want to remind everyone that if you are registered for today's webinar, you'll be registered for next week's as well. Next week, we're going to be talking about enabling remote work with technology. Not only some of the tools that are out there for process servers, we'll be giving some examples with our Serve Manager product, but we'll also be talking about, the Slacks and the Zooms and the remote Office, Google Docs, et cetera, things that you can be utilizing in this time. As well as some ways that you can have a more efficient process. But again, thank you everyone. Great insight here today. Thanks to Steve as well for asking all those questions. And everyone head over to Slack right now. Adam, I'll hand it over to you for some final thoughts.
Yeah, just really quickly, I want to get us all over to Slack, and there's a lot of questions that we didn't get to, so please bring those over to Slack, to the AMA channel, and ask them in there. All of the panelists will be there for a little bit. I just want to thank you guys for being here and echo what I said at the beginning. We know you all have a lot on your plates, and the fact that you're taking this time is a acknowledgement of your commitment to this industry, and just really appreciate you guys being here and giving us your time today. So thank you. We'll hopefully see all you guys in Slack, and see everybody on the 28th. Thanks.
Adam, I just want to say to you and Trent and to Steve, this is a fantastic thing you guys are doing for the industry. I mean, it's unprecedented, and it's really spectacular to see that there's 1,000 people that have jumped on the line to take part in this. And I also want to thank those 1,000 people that are on the line, because without you guys, Firefly or some of our other companies don't survive. So we want to thank all you guys for being out there, and you know, we'll get through this. We're going to get through this together.
Yeah. And I guess one final note there, I will, in tomorrow's follow-up email, today or tomorrow's follow-up email of the recording, the panelists, you know, have expressed interest in getting some local insight on what's going on with, you know, serving in your local areas. And so if you do affiliate work for some of these larger companies, or you're interested in connecting with them, I encourage you to fill out that survey. We'll be sharing that with them. And yeah, I don't know if any of the panelists have any final thoughts, feel free, but otherwise I think we're going to wrap it up.
Thank you for including me.
Right.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.